Good evening, good evening, good evening, strengtheners. I see you all are ready and already popping and active in the chat and letting everybody know where you're from and saying hello to you. I want to welcome you to Leadership Forward, an opportunity for us to get together and learn together. And my name is Toska Medlock Lee, and I am one of the program coordinators with Strengthening the Black Church for the 21st Century. And I'm so excited to have you all here this evening. So let's get right to the teaching for this evening. So we are going to be talking about community transformation and the power of affinity groups. That is an amazing topic, and we have an amazing presenter for this afternoon. Cornelia McCowan is, she's a personal friend of mine. She is also a sister in Christ. We served together in ministry at St. Paul United Methodist Church, and she's currently serving at St. Luke Community United Methodist Church. Cornelia's career has journeyed from education all the way up to higher education. And she holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Texas at Dallas, a master's in education in higher education from Dallas Baptist University. And she currently serves as the manager of college and career solutions at Economic Mobility Systems. One of the things that you are going to learn today is how affinity groups can help our communities. Effective communities thrive on the culture of belonging and affinity groups. And so what a great way for us to end the last Leadership Forward with us talking about how we need one another in order to engage. So as we move forward, and for lack of a better time, I want to make sure that we just bring on Miss Cornelia McCowan. And Cornelia, it's so good to have you with us this evening. So thank you so much. How's it going for you?
It's going well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited that I'm able to talk about the community empowerment and transformation through affinity groups with everyone this evening.
Very good. Well, one of the things that I know that I'm excited about hearing you discuss is, when we understand diverse perspectives and the needs for affinity groups and really defining what that actually means. I know a lot of corporations have affinity groups. What does that mean for our community? And then knowing that when we connect in a deeper way, that we have the power to leverage and transform our community. So I'm really looking forward to you sharing on that this afternoon. So without further ado, I want you to get into your teaching.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Toska.
Thank
you for the wonderful introduction. And we are just going to go ahead and jump right in. One of the things that I would like to share with everyone tonight is that we are greater when we work together. And we have to make sure that we can kind of capitalize on the best resources that we have, and that is when we work together. And so I really want to focus in on the power of affinity groups. And like Toska has stated, a lot of corporations have really started to capitalize on having people work together on with common interest and a common mission and vision. And they have realized that it produces a greater return on the investment. So our agenda tonight, we're going to talk about a working definition of affinity groups. And there were some key findings that I found very interesting from a research done by the Harvard Graduate School that I would like to share. We will talk about the power of together and follow up with talking about launching affinity groups and strengthening our communities, and why it's very important that we work together in order to strengthen our community for future generations. And so for our time together, our working definition of an affinity group is simply a small group of people with similar interests who are committed to growing together through shared experience to promote a common purpose. And I just would like to share just a story about during the pandemic. I was a part of a group of women that came together every Sunday for Bible study. And it was just a great opportunity to connect and a great opportunity for spiritual growth. And I appreciate it because it was during the COVID, and I really just appreciated that time. And Harvard Business School, the graduate school, they have a research about making care a common project. And they talked about it's important for people, like as we transition out of the pandemic, to be connected. And one of the key findings was that like 36% of respondents reported they were seriously lonely almost all the time. And then 43% of the young adults surveyed reported that there was an increase in loneliness during the outbreak of the pandemic. And that also led to 63% of young adults suffering from significant symptoms of anxiety and depression. And the reason that I bring this up is because the affinity groups and having a place of belonging can really help us when we think about having people connected and not feeling lonely and feeling that they are cared for, and also working together for a common good. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. And that's what the affinity groups, that's what they help us kind of foster a sense of togetherness so we can accomplish more. Because if we look at the challenges facing our communities now, it's not going to, there's not one person that's going to be able to solve all the problems. It's going to be small groups of dedicated people working together. I just wanted to include these 30 Bible verses that talked about the power of being there for one another and being there together. And you can take a screenshot or take a picture of this and go back and look at some of these scriptures, because it's very powerful that when we come together and we work together, that there is synergy in that. And the enemy knows it. And that's why he tries to isolate and get us alone, so that we will not be as effective as people that are working together for a common good. And when we are working together, and there is the security of working with people that are like-minded and we have things in common with, and we affirm each other, there is an empowerment that comes from that. And that empowerment is the catalyst that will change communities. And that empowerment will help us, you know, with some of those challenges that we face in the community, that we can address and move forward. And so in launching an affinity group, there are really 4 stages of development that you need to go through in order to be effective. And so when you see, once you identify a need, and when you think about what type of needs you're identifying in the community, everything helps a community grow stronger when you are working together to make it better. And so if you have a group of people, of concerned people that are addressing the homeless, and they decide that they want to get together and they want to make a difference, and they are deciding to make a difference in their community, on their block, in their church family, and then select an engagement model. And when I say select an engagement model, like decide on how you want to engage. Like, are you going to be direct services, right, working indirectly with to address the need? Are you going to do policy changes to address the need? Because all of those things need to be in place. You need to have the policy, you need to have the direct services, and you need to have indirect services. And so once you decide on your engagement model, you would communicate that mission and invite others to join you in your Affinity group to address the need and concern for your community. And then the stage 4 is that you grow together and enjoy the journey. Because when you are thinking about starting an Affinity group, it's not something that, oh, I'm going to start an Affinity group this month and next month it's gone. You want to think about the long term. There are big challenges in our community, and we've experienced the hurt of having organizations come in our community for 2 years and they're gone. So when you're thinking about what impact that you want to have, you want to think about the long term, and you want to be consistent in order to be effective. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. This is a quote by Margaret Mead. But as a person of faith, you have an extra source of faith and of power that you have access to. So when a small group of faith believing people come together to address a concern or address an issue in the community, and they are bringing in the resources or going out to seek the resources, a change will happen. A change will happen, and our communities will get better. And it will only happen if we decide that we are going to put in the work and get the education, research, and connect the resources that will properly address the problem. Hebrews 10:24-25 says, "Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together." And I chose this scripture to share on this evening because that's the power of the Affinity groups. It's when we can come together and have a common purpose and help to address some of the ongoing challenges that face the Black community, that face the Black church. And we can only do it when we are working together. We can only move forward together. The enemy seeks to divide us, and the enemy seeks to isolate us. And so those have been his strategies from day one, is to isolate and divide. And we, as the Black church, when we come together and we work together, we can build back a better community, and we can start reversing some of the systematic racisms that have been plaguing our community for decades. I want to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Cornelia. And that was really some good and helpful information. So, and I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we're going to open it up for questions and answers, for her to go a little deeper in these affinity groups that she's speaking of. And one of the questions, and I'll start, one of the questions that I have is maybe it's a question and a comment, but how do we as a Black community, as a Black faith community, really begin to align with like goals and objectives? Because some people may, or some groups or organizations may think that they're too far apart to really align up in a particular goal. But is there a process in which we determine if we are aligning together on a particular goal and objective?
Toska, that's a great question. And yes, there is a process that you would go through. It's kind of like the design process when you are coming together to address an issue. And again, you have to be coming together to address an issue or a challenge that's facing the community. And I think sometimes in our faith communities, we get too caught up on, oh, well, my faith believes this way, or your faith believes that way. But when we align toward, let's just say for education, right now we have a challenge in our community, and it's with our children and their ability to read. Like, we don't have to agree on everything that our church doctrine has, but we do all agree that children need to read. And we can, from there, build a coalition and alliance to address just that issue. We can't address everything. One group can't address everything at one time. It's the affinity groups work because they are driven by the common goal, a common purpose, and with like-minded people. So you would have people that are passionate about reading just for the education, or for homeless, or for prison reform. And they would come together, and they would have to collaborate and come up with a shared vision. I can't express enough that shared vision is what drives the affinity groups to be effective. And you have to be on one accord. You have to know this is what we're trying to do. This is the goal. And this is what we're going to be doing. And because if you get stuck in the weeds of what everybody believes, and you will not be able to make progress.
And again, as you drop any questions that you may have for Cornelia, the next question that I wanted to ask you is about, and I know you have employed this process at the local church where you are with St. Luke Community United Methodist Church. And I know you've worked with the children's ministry, youth ministry, what have you. Talk a little bit about how you specifically have used this process in the local church to give, someone that's, here in the local church, how they might could use it.
Okay. And so I'll use just my experience working, let's just say working with the youth, because that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about working with the youth. And one of the things that we do is that we have to give our youth an outlet. And so we, as the adults, we have to find ways to engage them. And you have to have a team of people that are passionate about serving the young people, because they're a little different these days. They're not, I say they're a little different because like, I would never think of saying a word, back to an adult. If they asked me to do something, I wouldn't say why. I just do it. But bringing people together and then have them focus on, like, one of our things that we focus on is spiritual growth, making sure that there are spiritual growth opportunities for the young people, and making sure that we continue to engage them. And so having that core group of people and having them with the passion and the heart for youth, working together, and having youth and being able to pour into their lives. And so our youth, the team serving the youth is an affinity group, and being able to reach back out to our college students. And so, and we have a calendar where we have the events and things that are, created for them. Mm-hmm. And someone asked in the chat, where can you find resources for creating an affinity group? And so I think the United Methodist Church has a wealth of resources for you to tap into from the discipleship ministry. There are so many resources out there that you can tap into. Is if you're thinking about what type of funding that you would need, there are also grants that are available for nonprofit organizations. There was a comment in the chat, a common goal of our core group to reach out to Black girls. That's great. Again, when you know the mission and the focus of your group, and that's important, so you know what to spend your time on. Because if time is important, the time and the energy, because at first I thought time was the most important component of making sure you're able to accomplish your goals. But now I'm finding that you have to have the time and the energy. And so that energy will help mobilize and help you accomplish the goals of the group. And it also helps you to stay consistent. I can't express this enough, is that consistency piece, because I worked in the school districts, and people would come in and want to mentor students. Mentoring is great, but you can't just mentor for 2 days or 2 weeks or a month. Right. You have to be consistent and be with that student the whole entire year.
Right.
And
right,
like I said, mentoring is great, but you also want to make sure you're able to be in it for the long term.
Right. One of the things that I want to encourage those who are participating in the chat is I want you to drop in some of things that you all are interested in your local church. What are some things that you're interested in that we can maybe help you create or define an affinity group around? One of the things that comes to mind is that oftentimes when the local church has ministry fairs and they're just looking for somebody to sign up, anybody. Hey, we need an usher. We need, somebody, anybody. Just if you breathe in, we need you. But what if we flipped that mentality? And as Dr. Bowie says, what if we start thinking right side? As it relates to the interest? One of the Ms. Rosalind in the chat talked about Push Out. And for those of you who may know, Push Out is a book that's out in a documentary, and United Women of Faith have studied this book for a long time now. And it's the criminalization of Black girls in schools. Mm-hmm. And so once women came to understand, particularly Black women, that there was an effort in terms of how Black girls were being punished in schools, I think some natural alignment happened as it relates to women wanting to be concerned, who was concerned about Black girls. And that naturally started an affinity group. So those of you in the chat, I mean, what are some of your interests? If you could just drop in, and so whether you serve on the trustees, or you serve on a governance team, or you serve in the capacity or what have you, what are your interests, and how can we begin to redefine, what these ministry offerings are as it relates to your interest and development of affinity groups?
And Toska, you're so right. It starts with the interest, but it also can flow, it can start in the church, but it can flow out, because
yes,
that is one of the things that I love about working with ministries in St. Luke. Like, some people that I know, they are part of St. Luke, but some of them are just part of the community that have that interest. Mm-hmm. And St. Luke is the meeting ground for them.
Right. So if you're a small congregation, I mean, and I think this is really a good, strong place for small congregations that may not necessarily are seeing, membership, but
Mhm.
then there are members of your community who are passionate about various things that are impacting the community. Someone said in the chat that ending poverty in my community is a passion, i.e. finance, photography and quilting and cooking. And someone says currently we are conducting research on the triangulation of the church, elected officials, and civic organizations to increase civic participation. The need is to have a myriad of engagement practices that can enhance momentum. And so I know that you would see that also in the myriad of affinity groups that happens at St. Luke, and particularly at St. Paul. And I would say that many of these social
Mhm.
justice ministries in the local churches are aligning with other affinity groups in the community.
And you would be surprised at the people that have the same interests. And I don't want you to think that an affinity group is just limited to the people that you meet with in person. I'm part of affinity groups that are on social media that they post about healthy lifestyles, about healthy living, about outdoor living, patio furniture. There's a lot of different groups that are out there, and people just have to connect it with their interest.
And what would you say that the goal, when we're talking as it relates to the faith community, the goal of the affinity groups would be to, does it lead to discipleship, or is it a
It
part of
no,
building relationships?
it leads to the discipleship and relationship building at the same time, because when you are working closely with someone and you are coming up with strategies and implementation plans, your life is the testimony that they see. And you are witnessing to them by your actions, and that is one way to get them plugged in and get them interested in discipleship. And there are people that are also in the church that haven't been asked to be involved, and for some reason that idea is like, I don't know how that's possible, but it's at larger churches. There are people that are just waiting to be asked to join in and become a part of the team.
There are some great interest in the chat as it relates to affinity group, healthy eating, parenting skills, mentoring young Black boys, hunger ministry. It would be great for our social justice ministry to connect with another social justice ministry throughout the country to share ideas and resources. And that is my passion. So I want to jump in right there to let you know, Mr. Johnson, is that SBC 21 has a robust national Office of Social Justice and Transformation. We just completed our 6th national summit on mass incarceration in Charlotte, North Carolina, and where we brought in best practices of faith communities from all across the country to equip pastors and leaders on best practices as it relates to social justice and prison ministry. So we're happy to engage in that level and to connect you with other ministries from across the country to share ideas and resources as well. So I just wanted to shameless plug that.
That's great, because that's what it's about. It's about connecting and the networking. And I think that because we have the tools and the resources now through, forums like this, and opportunities to learn from each other, that we have to capitalize on it, and we have to get resources and connect with other people, because there's no need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of these ideas, the affinity groups, are out there. Someone has created one, someone has made a YouTube channel. They have a Facebook group about it, and you can learn more about it so you can bring it to your community.
I'm just so I'm really, like, my wheels are turning as you are talking, as it relates to that, because my relationship to affinity groups really are those that are in corporate America. So you have the African American Association at Microsoft, the Black Employees Association at American Airlines. And so that's been my connectedness to them, in terms of my understanding. But I see how the ministries in the local context can move beyond for these affinity groups throughout, especially when you mention social media. Cornelia, can you tell us, tell our audience, how do we connect with affinity groups in their immediate area? What would be some ideas that you can give people in their area how to connect with an affinity group, and then the idea of connecting with affinity groups that's not in your area around the same interest?
Okay, so the thing about it is just identify, like I say, identify one interest that you are very passionate about. And then once you identify that issue that you are very passionate about, now the work begins. Now you have to go out, first start at your church to see if there are other people interested in it. And if there's not a group, guess what? You have been commissioned, you can start a group. One of the groups that I've just recently joined is a group that works out. And so it could be around anything that will help you grow and be a better disciple, and also help you reach out and connect to other disciples, and also help you reach out and connect people to discipleship. And so someone put in the chat about mental health, but the best way to find an affinity group is to start a conversation about what you're interested in, and you tell others, like Toska was talking about the prison ministry, and connect with her. If you're connecting on education, connecting with the local school district. If you're looking for ways to improve, like the mental health of the people in your community or people at your church, reach out to a mental health specialist and see what groups and what organizations they can connect you with, because it's all about the organizations that, again, I told you, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but connecting to the people that are already doing the work. People are already doing the work, or people are already engaged in helping to support the homeless in the community. Find the people that are doing the work, that have a heart and passion for the work. I really love how Mackenzie Scott shows up, and she does not make people complete long applications for grant. If you're doing good work and she sees it, $16 million. That's how much she gave to Grand Prairie ISD. And you find people that are doing good work, and you align yourself with that.
And I know that everybody that's participating with us this evening is doing really, really good work. And what I want us to know is that it doesn't have to be, a million and one things, but that there's that one thing that that we could do. Someone just dropped in the chat how to cope with grief. When I tell you that is an affinity group, particularly in the Black church, that I believe is one of the ones that's lacking the most, is grief groups, because oftentimes people suffer in silence, with their pain and their trauma and their grief. And so oftentimes that's not been readily available. But if you have the courage to begin a grief group, I think that's a really great thing for the community. And oftentimes, some of our local churches are opening our doors to other types of affinity groups, whether it's Al-Anon or AA or, all
Mhm.
types of support groups. We're opening our churches to those groups, but not necessarily participating in those groups. Someone said in the chat, empowering the family and community. We offer home cooked meals, no cook Tuesday, every second Tuesday of each month. Local Black entrepreneurs partner with our church. The No Cook Tuesday ministry is to allow families to connect with family conversations. Please drop the name of your church in the chat.
Oh, that is
Because
awesome.
that is a fantastic idea. Drop the name of your church in the chat and the city, so that we could go to your website and look at that, because I believe that's worth sharing. And that's what an affinity group does, right?
Yes, they share best practices. Uh, and that's how you are able to incorporate those best practices into what you are doing. And so you can make it better for the people that you're working with.
And I tell you, that's why we do Leadership Forward. Now, Leadership Forward, we teach one another. So we have a presenter like yourself, but all of our participants and attendees have something to share and
Mm.
something to glean and to share with others. So that's why we ask you to continue to drop your information in the chat and to share with us in the chat, because we're each one teaching one, right? So we're teaching one another, in this process. So I'm very grateful for that. That's really an awesome ministry. So Cornelia, the other thing I wanted to ask is, and someone talked a little bit about, resources and budget and things of that nature. Have you found any creative ways, things that you are able to do, and partnerships that you've made where churches that may really literally are on a shoestring budget, that can, connect in a way with community groups or organizations to give time or other types of human resources, where, have you seen that type of activity happening?
Um, I will share this story with you. One of the ways I saw an organization that had no funding, but they had a goal. They were passionate about art. They decided to do, I think they called it guerrilla fundraising, where they hosted an event and all the proceeds for the event went toward one organization. So they hosted an event and they gave that money to our organization to help with their children's art program. And then the children created art and they auctioned that art off, and the money they made from that went to another organization. So being very creative about how you go about the fundraising. But also, again, I said this earlier about the time. That time, being able to put that time in is very, very critical to the success of an affinity group.
Very good.
And so carving out time so you can be consistent and effective is important.
Very good. I want you guys to we have a few more minutes. I want you to keep dropping your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, questions in the chat, because we have some really, really, really good ones. Sharon Spratt says, helping persons who have been released from prison. And there are a number of affinity groups around reentry where local churches can get involved, with that work. With reentry is critically important. There's so many components to persons who are being released from incarceration in terms of the needs that they have, from housing to jobs, or to simply getting their birth certificate and or driver's license. So it's a lot of needs that's happening there. Thank you all for sharing that information. Ending homeless. So one of the things that I am wanting to see, Cornelia, if you could kind of share with us, is once an organization, church, or ministry begins to identify their interests and what they're passionate about, how do they go about building their network? How do you go about building the network and then promoting the visibility of that affinity group?
And that is a great question. And so it's important for the people that are starting, if it's a new group or an existing group that they want to re-energize, is first of all connecting it to with others. Also, we have the social media platforms, but also the best way is getting out there in the community, actually talking with people and bringing them in, because you'd be surprised just conversations you have with people at the coffee shop, when you are letting them know what you are interested in and what you are doing. And again, it's the doing that brings the attention. Like when you have events or when you are doing activities in the community, making sure you are promoting that so you can connect others to it, but also writing up, stories about it. And they don't have like the regular newspaper, but they have online news forums that you can publish in. It's about marketing and getting it out there so that people can see what you're doing, because they're not going to know that you're doing something if it's just if you and 5 of your friends and you're not promoting it on social media, or you're letting other people know that you're doing the work. And I know that some people, that's their Affinity, their Affinity group, that's what they do. It's just, a small group of people, and they don't want to grow to be a big group. They just want to do the work that they're passionate about and get it done. One of the things that Pastor Nucleus Johnson did for the students, because I was alarmed because students could read. He started doing bedtime stories every Wednesday for the children, and parents would log on so they could see the youth pastor reading stories to the children, and that gave them a moment of relief. But it was also to promote reading.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because I remember at St. Paul, when you were there, our women's Bible study, really became an affinity group during COVID, because
Yes,
we had a
did.
Bible study, and I'm telling you, we had women from all over the country that would log on to our Bible study. And it was, by people that was just interested in coming together and studying the word. And somebody would tell their cousin who lived in Detroit, and then someone told someone that lives in California. And before you knew it, we had people logging on from all over the country for our Bible study. So, and not realizing it, again, that became an affinity group because of the line share of likeness that the women had. So I hear St. Matthew's UMC saying we're passionate about feeding people, clothing, and reaching the community. We're located in Memphis, Tennessee. The Thanksgiving dinner is free and have arts and craft for the children. We have currently relaunched reading programs on Wednesdays. Yes. Absolutely wonderful. That's so good. Thank you so much for sharing, Pastor Alexander. That is really, really amazing and wonderful. And that's what it's all about. I mean, one of the things that we try to connect everyone on is to reimagine and to repurpose how you are doing ministry and the things that you have. What do you have in your hand?
Yes.
Right. So there are a lot of things that people say that they don't have. We don't have money. We don't have people, but you have people beyond the wall. It's millions of people around, right? So you got people. You got people. So any parting words, Cornelia?
Oh, I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. It has been a joy to share with everyone. And I just want to really challenge everyone that's on the call to really go out and connect and share their voice and be part of different groups that are strengthening the Black community.
Well, I want to remind all of my strengtheners that are listening that SBC 21 is here for you. I want you to be reminded that the Black church matters. We have a number of resources that are available to you. Leadership Forward, again, is once a month. We're going to take off for the month of December, but we're going to be back with fresh, relevant content beginning in January. Mark your calendar and tell somebody to tell somebody. This has been an amazing conversation. Cornelia, thank you so much for your time. Remember to go to sbc21.org, sign up for our newsletter so you will not miss anything. Our next newsletter will be out at the first week in December, and so it'll be full of resources and holiday tips and tools and things of that nature. And remember to go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you come check us out over there, and make sure that you look beyond your pews. I just want to leave that with you, because an affinity group, a ministry, or anything can be cultivated beyond your pews. And when next time you say, well, we just don't have the people, think about that question. People are everywhere. Align the interest. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in January. Have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving and a super holiday season. Be blessed.